What if I told you that between the 1963 March on Washington and the 2014 Ferguson uprising, Black America didn't just sit quietly waiting for justice? What if I told you that between 1994 and 2010 alone, there were over 8,000 Black protests against police violence, prison, brutality, Confederate symbols, and hate crimes? But your history books skipped 40 years, like we were all sleeping. What if I told you they erased an entire generation from history? The bridge generation. Your generation. The parents and grandparents who marched between MLK and BLM. February 4th, 1999. 50,000 people blocked the streets of New York City for Amadou Diallo, an unarmed man shot 41 times by police. 41 bullets. You never learned about that in school. April 2001. Cincinnati erupted in 4 days of rebellion after police killed the 15th unarmed Black person in 6 years. 800 people arrested. National Guard deployed. You never saw that in your textbooks. September 20th, 2007. Between 15 and 20,000 people descended on Jena, Louisiana population, 3,000, for 6 Black teenagers facing life in prison for a schoolyard fight, while white students who hung nooses got 3-day suspensions. The largest civil rights march in the South since the 1960s. And most Americans never heard about it. They called them riots when they were uprisings. They called them isolated incidents when it was organized resistance. They made you think Black activism died after the 60s, that nothing happened between Martin Luther King and Barack Obama, that your generation just sat around waiting for things to get better. That was a lie. A deliberate, systematic, calculated lie. And today, that lie dies. This isn't ancient history. This is your history. This affects your life today. Your mother might have marched in those streets. Your father might have organized those protests. Your aunt, your uncle, your grandmother. They might have been there blocking bridges, shutting down police stations, demanding justice while the cameras looked away. And nobody remembers. Nobody honors them. Nobody taught you their names, until now. By the end of this video, you'll know why the media covered thousands of Black protests, but called them isolated incidents instead of a movement. You'll discover the names and faces of the warriors who fought police brutality in the 90s and 2000s before hashtags, before body cameras, before the world was watching. You'll understand how the war on drugs, tough on crime policies, and post-9/11 surveillance silenced Black dissent for 2 decades. And you'll see how your generation, the 45 to 65-year-olds today, built the foundation that made Black Lives Matter possible. If you marched in the 90s and nobody remembers, this is for you. If you protested in the 2000s and your children don't know, this is your validation. If you watched Rodney King on TV, if you cried when Amadou Diallo was killed, if you felt powerless after Sean Bell's murder, you were not alone. You were part of a movement they erased. You were the bridge, and they tried to burn that bridge from history. Your ancestors marched in the 60s. Your children marched in 2014. But you were the connection. You carried the torch through the darkest decades. And after this video, you'll never see Black Lives Matter as something new. You'll see it as the continuation of your fight, the fight you've been fighting all along. This is the missing link. This is the stolen history. This is the bridge generation. Let's bring them back to life. They were too young to march with Martin Luther King, too old to tweet hashtag Black Lives Matter. Born between 1950 and 1975, they came of age in the crack epidemic, the war on drugs, the prison boom. They watched their neighborhoods flooded with cocaine while Reagan declared war on their communities. They watched their brothers, fathers, sons locked up by the millions while politicians called it tough on crime. They watched Rodney King get beaten on video and the officers walk free. And they said enough. The 1994 crime bill locked up a generation. The 1995 Million Man March tried to reclaim dignity. And between 1994 and 2010, they protested thousands of times. Not hundreds, thousands. But the media called it noise, called it isolated, called it insignificant, called it anything except what it was a movement. Here are the numbers they don't want you to know. Researchers analyzed newswire coverage from 1994 to 2010 and found over 8,000 documented Black protest events. 8,000 in 16 years. That's more than one protest every single day for 16 straight years. Police violence and criminal justice issues made up 40% of those protests. 40%. 4 out of every 10 Black protest events were specifically about police brutality, mass incarceration, or criminal justice reform. But here's the really disturbing part. 62% of police violence protests were covered by mainstream news wires, but not by Black newspapers. Why? Because the news wires only covered them when there was dramatic violence, property damage, or a celebrity got involved. They covered the spectacle, not the substance. Meanwhile, 81% of events covered by Black newspapers were never mentioned in mainstream media at all. Worker strikes, community anti-violence campaigns, educational justice protests, prison reform organizing, economic justice movements. The media chose what you saw. They showed you the broken windows, but hid the organized, sustained, strategic activism happening every single day. And then September 11, 2001 happened. Protest coverage dropped by 60% overnight. The war on terror began. Suddenly, dissent became unpatriotic. Protesters became threats. Black activism became invisible right when it was gaining momentum. This wasn't an accident. This was strategy. Make Black resistance disappear exactly when it mattered most. They weren't famous. They weren't on TV. Most of them never got a book deal or a documentary. But they showed up, week after week, year after year, in New York and Cincinnati, in Oakland and Atlanta, in Los Angeles and Chicago, blocking bridges, shutting down precincts, marching in the rain, organizing in church basements, training the next generation, demanding justice when nobody was listening. They were the bridge generation, and it's time you learned their names. Let me introduce you to some of them, starting with a mother who lost everything and became a warrior. Kadiatou Diallo was living in Guinea, West Africa, when she got the phone call that shattered her world. February 4th, 1999. Her son Amadou, 23 years old, had been shot by New York City police. Not once, not twice, 41 times. 19 bullets hit his body. He died in the doorway of his apartment building in the Bronx. His crime, reaching for his wallet. Amadou Diallo came to America to build a better life. He was selling videos and socks on the street, sending money back to his family in Guinea. He was gentle, respectful. He had no criminal record. He wasn't a threat to anyone. 4 plainclothes NYPD officers approached him after midnight. They claimed they thought he matched the description of a rape suspect. They didn't identify themselves clearly. Amadou reached for his wallet, probably to show his ID. They thought it was a gun. They fired 41 shots in 7 seconds. 41 bullets. In 7 seconds. 19 hit Amadou. He died instantly. Kadiatou Diallo flew to New York to bury her son. She didn't speak perfect English. She was a Muslim woman from West Africa, trying to navigate an American legal system that had just killed her child. She could have stayed silent. She could have taken whatever settlement they offered and gone home to grieve in private. But she didn't. She learned one phrase: fast. No justice, no peace. And she meant it. Within days, protests erupted across New York City. Not small protests, massive mobilizations. On March 27, 1999, over 50,000 people marched across the Brooklyn Bridge for Amadou Diallo. 50,000. They blocked traffic for hours. They shut down Lower Manhattan. They carried signs that said 41 shots. They chanted Amadou's name until the buildings echoed with it. Reverend Al Sharpton led daily civil disobedience at the police precinct. Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis, legendary black actors, got arrested on purpose to keep the story alive. Hundreds of people, including clergy members, lawyers, teachers, activists, deliberately got arrested day after day to maintain pressure. Kadiatou stood with them. This grieving mother who had just buried her son stood on stages and testified about police brutality. She spoke at the United Nations. She met with city officials. She organized press conferences. She refused to let them forget Amadou. She refused to let them call it an unfortunate accident and move on. The trial happened in February 2000, a year after Amadou's death. The 4 officers, Sean Carroll, Richard Murphy, Edward McMillan, and Kenneth Boss, were charged with second-degree murder. The trial was moved to Albany, away from New York City, supposedly for a fair trial. But it meant moving it away from the people who cared, away from the community, demanding justice. On February 25, 2000, all 4 officers were acquitted on all charges. Not guilty of murder, not guilty of manslaughter, not guilty of criminally negligent homicide, not guilty of anything. They shot an unarmed man 41 times and walked away free. New York erupted again. Thousands poured into the streets. Kadiatou Diallo was devastated, but she didn't stop. She filed a civil lawsuit against the city. It took 4 more years, but in 2004, she won. The city paid $3 million to settle the case. But here's what they don't tell you about that settlement. Kadiatou gave half of it away. Half. She donated it to charities supporting victims of police violence. She said the money couldn't bring Amadou back. She said if it could help other families survive what she survived, then something good could come from something evil. But she didn't stop there. Kadiatou Diallo became a mentor to other mothers who lost children to police violence. When Sean Bell was killed by NYPD in 2006, shot 50 times the night before his wedding, Kadiatou reached out to his mother, Valerie Bell, and his fiancée, Nicole Paltre Bell. She taught them how to navigate the media, how to organize, how to keep fighting when exhaustion sets in. When Ramarley Graham was killed in 2012, when Akai Gurley was killed in 2014, Kadiatou was there offering guidance to their families. She wrote a memoir called My Heart Will Cross This Ocean. She spoke at mosques, churches, synagogues, community centers, anywhere people would listen. She made sure the world would never forget 41 bullets. Never forget the name Amadou Diallo. Never forget that an immigrant from Guinea who came to America for opportunity died in a hail of police gunfire for the crime of reaching for his wallet. And here's why this matters. When Eric Garner was killed in 2014, when the protests erupted that helped birth Black Lives Matter protesters in New York, didn't just chant "I can't breathe." They also chanted Amadou Diallo. They chanted Sean Bell. They chanted Ramarley Graham. They connected the dots. They said, "This isn't new. This has been happening for decades, and we've been fighting for decades." Kadiatou Diallo proved that a grieving mother could become a warrior. That pain could become power. That one name, Amadou, could shake a nation and inspire a movement. If your mother ever told you a black woman has to be twice as brave, she was talking about Kadiatou Diallo. If your grandmother ever said, "Don't wait for white approval," she was channeling the spirit of mothers, like Kadiatou, who refused to beg for justice and instead demanded it. This is your history. This is your legacy. Remember the name, Kadiatou Diallo. Remember the number, 41 shots. Remember what it means. They tried to erase him. She made him immortal. But Kadiatou wasn't alone. All across America, other communities were reaching their breaking points. and one city was about to explode. Cincinnati, Ohio, April 7th, 2001. Timothy Thomas was 19 years old, and he was running. He had 14 misdemeanor warrants, not felonies. Misdemeanors, traffic violations, seatbelt tickets, failure to appear in court for minor infractions. The kind of stuff that gets white kids a fine and gets black kids chased through the streets by armed police at night. Officer Stephen Roach chased Timothy into an alley in the Over the Rhine neighborhood, one of the poorest black neighborhoods in Cincinnati. Timothy was unarmed. Witnesses said he raised his hands. Officer Stephen Roach fired one shot, hit Timothy in the chest. He died within minutes. Timothy Thomas was the 15th. Let that sink in. The 15th unarmed black person killed by Cincinnati police since 1995. 15 killings in 6 years. No officers convicted. No officers even seriously disciplined. Just body after body after body. While the city said we're investigating, we're implementing reforms, we're doing better. But the bodies kept piling up. 15 names, 15 families, 15 funerals. And Cincinnati expected black residents to just keep accepting it. They were done accepting it. April 9th, 2 days after Timothy's death, hundreds gathered at City Hall for a peaceful protest. They wanted to speak with the mayor. They wanted to speak with the police chief. They wanted answers about why another unarmed teenager was dead. The city's response, police declared it an unlawful assembly. They brought out riot gear. They fired tear gas into the crowd. They shot rubber bullets at protesters who had gathered peacefully. They attacked grieving people demanding basic accountability. That was the match that lit the fire. April 10th through April 13th. 4 days. Cincinnati burned. Not because black people are violent, because black people were done dying. Store windows were smashed. Some buildings were set on fire. Cars were overturned. And yes, it was destructive. But you know what else is destructive? Killing 15 people in 6 years and facing 0 consequences. Destroying 15 families and calling it isolated incidents. That's violence too. That's terrorism too. But nobody calls it a riot when police do it. The city declared a curfew. The National Guard was deployed. Over 800 people were arrested in 4 days. 800, most of them black residents who had simply had enough. The media showed burning buildings on loop. They called it a race riot. They called Cincinnati a war zone. They made it sound like black people just woke up one day and decided to destroy their own neighborhood for no reason. They erased the 15 bodies. They erased the 6 years of police violence. They erased Timothy Thomas's name from the story and just showed the fire. But inside, the community organizers were working. Reverend Damon Lynch III was 29 years old, pastor of New Prospect Baptist Church. He tried to negotiate with the city during the uprising. He asked for a meeting with the mayor. The city refused. He asked for dialogue. They responded with tear gas and arrests. So Reverend Lynch and other community leaders shifted strategies. If the city won't talk, we'll hit them where it hurts. The wallet. They organized a boycott. Not a small one. A massive, coordinated, sustained economic boycott of downtown Cincinnati. Black residents stopped shopping downtown. They stopped going to restaurants, stores, entertainment venues. They organized carpools to stores in neighboring suburbs. They told national organizations, do not hold your conventions in Cincinnati. Do not bring your conferences here. Do not give this city your money until they give us justice. And it worked. Over the next 2 years, Cincinnati lost millions of dollars in revenue. Tourism dropped. Conventions canceled. Businesses closed. The city that wouldn't listen to protests listened to empty cash registers. Meanwhile, Angela Leisure Timothy Thomas's mother became the face of grief and rage. She was 29 years old. Timothy was her oldest son. She had to bury her teenager because he didn't wear a seatbelt and ran from police. She testified before city council. She went on national news. She said they killed my baby for a seatbelt. They shot him in the back while his hands were up. How is that protecting and serving? How is that justice? Her pain was raw. Her anger was righteous. And she refused to be quiet. Officer Stephen Roach went to trial in September 2001. He was charged with negligent homicide and obstruction of official business. The trial lasted 3 weeks. On September 26, 2001, Roach was acquitted of negligent homicide. The jury deadlocked on the obstruction charge, and it was eventually dismissed. Once again, an officer who killed an unarmed black person walked free. Once again, a family was told, "Your child's life doesn't matter enough for accountability." Once again, the system protected the killer. But something different happened this time. The community didn't just mourn and move on. They sued. They organized. They forced the city into a legal agreement. In 2003, Cincinnati signed a collaborative agreement with the ACLU and community organizations. It was one of the first comprehensive police reform contracts in the nation. It mandated use of force restrictions, bias training community, oversight, data collection on stops and arrests, crisis intervention training for officers dealing with mental health situations. It wasn't perfect. It didn't bring Timothy back. But it was a blueprint. It proved that sustained pressure, economic boycotts, and legal action could force systemic change. Other cities studied the Cincinnati model. Activists from Ferguson studied it in 2014. They learned sometimes you have to disrupt everything. Sometimes you have to make them feel the pain economically before they'll make reforms. Sometimes rebellion is the only language power understands. But Cincinnati paid a price too. After the uprising and the boycott, Black residents started leaving the city in large numbers. They were tired. They were traumatized. The neighborhood where Timothy died over the Rhine gentrified rapidly over the next decade. Black families who had lived there for generations were pushed out by rising rents and development projects. The people who fought for justice couldn't afford to stay and see the fruits of that justice. That's the bitter irony. They won reforms, but lost their neighborhood. Timothy Thomas's name became a rallying cry. When Trayvon Martin was killed in 2012, activists remembered Timothy. When Michael Brown was killed in 2014, activists remembered Timothy. The Bridge generation passed down his story. They said, "Don't let them tell you Ferguson is new. Don't let them act surprised that Black people are tired of police violence. We've been fighting this for decades." Cincinnati 2001 was Ferguson before Ferguson. Timothy Thomas was one of many names we carried into the streets long before hashtags made it trendy. Angela Leisure never got her son back. Kadiatou Diallo never got Amadou back. But they got something else. They got a network, a sisterhood, a movement of mothers who lost children and refused to let those children be forgotten. They mentored each other. They organized together. They showed up for each other's court dates, each other's press conferences, each other's protests. They became the backbone of a movement the media refused to cover. And they weren't done yet. Because while New York and Cincinnati were exploding, something was brewing in the South that would prove the Bridge generation could still mobilize like the Civil Rights era. It would prove that 21st century Black folks would still travel hundreds of miles for justice. It would prove that the spirit of the Freedom Rides never died. It just went underground for a while. And in 2007, it came roaring back to life in a small Louisiana town nobody had heard of, until they heard the words, Jena 6, Jena, Louisiana. Population 3,000, a small town in the heart of Louisiana, where everybody knows everybody, and nothing much changes. Until September 2006, when everything changed. Jena High School had a tree. They called it the White Tree. Not officially. Nobody put up a sign. But everybody knew. White students sat under that tree. Black students knew not to. That's just how it was. Unofficial segregation. Unwritten rules. The kind of thing that exists in small southern towns, where people pretend racism died in 1965, but everybody knows exactly where the lines are drawn. September 2006. Robert Bailey, a black student, decided he was tired of the unwritten rules. He sat under the tree, just sat there, with some friends. They weren't causing trouble. They weren't fighting. They were sitting under a tree at their own school in 2006, not 1956, 2006. The next morning, September 1st, 2006, 3 nooses hung from the branches of that tree. 3 nooses, hanging from a tree at a high school. In case you're wondering what that means, let me be clear. Nooses aren't Halloween decorations. Nooses aren't pranks. Nooses are terrorism. They're threats. They're saying we used to hang your ancestors from trees, and we'll do it again if you forget your place. That's what 3 white students said to their black classmates without speaking a word. We will lynch you. The school's response, 3-day suspension for hanging symbols of lynching at a school. The superintendent called it a youthful stunt. The district attorney, Reed Walters, came to the school and spoke to students. He said he could end their lives with a stroke of his pen if there was any retaliation. He was warning black students not to respond to death threats. Think about that. White students hang nooses, get 3 days off school. Black students are warned that responding will end their lives. That's Jena, Louisiana in 2006. Tensions boiled for months. Black students were jumped at a party. A white student pulled a shotgun on black students at a convenience store. The black students wrestled the gun away and were charged with theft. The white student faced no charges for pulling a weapon. Every incident, black students got the worst punishment. Every incident, white students walked away. Every incident, the message was clear. You are not equal, you are not safe, and the system will not protect you. December 4th, 2006. A fight broke out at Jena High School. A white student named Justin Barker was attacked by 6 black students. He was punched and kicked. It was a fight. A school fight. The kind that happens at high schools across America every single day. Justin Barker went to the hospital. He was treated and released the same day. He attended a school event that night. His injuries were not life-threatening. He recovered fully. It was a fight. That's it. 6 black teenagers were arrested. Michael Bell, Robert, Bailey, Carwin Jones, Bryant, Purvis, Theo Shaw, and Jesse Ray Beard. Their names became known as the Jena Six. The district attorney, Reed Walters, the same man who called the nooses a prank, charged them with attempted second-degree murder. Attempted murder. For a schoolyard fight where the victim went home the same day. If convicted, they faced up to 100 years in prison. 100 years. For a fight. While the white students who hung nooses got 3-day suspensions. Michael Bell was tried first in June 2007. He was 16 at the time of the fight, but was tried as an adult. An all-white jury convicted him of aggravated second-degree battery and conspiracy. Not murder, but still serious felony charges. He was facing 22 years in prison. 22 years for a schoolyard fight. He was sent to adult prison to await sentencing. A 16-year-old child in adult prison. His bail was set at $90,000. His family couldn't afford it. He sat in prison for months while his case was appealed. The rest of the country didn't know. This was happening in a small Louisiana town, and nobody was covering it. But word traveled through the black community. Black radio hosts picked up the story. Michael Baez, a nationally syndicated black radio host, put it on air in July 2007. He said, "This is an outrage. This is injustice. This is exactly what they did to Emmett Till's killers in reverse. They're railroading black children while protecting white children who threaten lynching." He urged listeners to go to Jena, to show up, to demand justice. The families organized. Michael Bell's father, Marcus Jones, organized. Conceptla Bailey, Robert Bailey's mother, organized. They reached out to civil rights organizations. They reached out to churches. They reached out to anyone who would listen. They said, "Our sons are facing life in prison for a fight, while white kids who hung nooses got suspended for 3 days. If this can happen to our sons, it can happen to any black child in America. This is the new lynching. They don't hang us from trees anymore. They cage us in prisons. But the result is the same. Our children disappear." September 20th, 2007. Jena, Louisiana woke up to an invasion. Not a violent invasion. An invasion of justice. Between 15 and 20,000 people descended on that town of 3,000. They came from 49 states. Churches chartered hundreds of buses. Families drove through the night. College students carpooled across state lines. They converged on Jena for the largest civil rights march in the South since the 1960s. Picture it, a tiny Louisiana town suddenly filled with thousands and thousands of black people from all over America. From New York, from California, from Michigan, from Texas, from Georgia, filling the streets, carrying signs, chanting the names. Jena Six. Jena Six. Free the Jena Six. The town couldn't handle it. There weren't enough bathrooms. There weren't enough parking spaces. There wasn't enough anything. But the people came anyway. Because 6 black teenagers needed them. Because this was bigger than Jena. This was about every black child in America living under a justice system that will cage them for fighting back, but protect white children who threaten them with nooses. Reverend Al Sharpton spoke. Jesse Jackson spoke. Martin Luther King III spoke. Politicians, activists, civil rights leaders, they all showed up. But the real power was the mothers. Conceptla Bailey stood on that stage and wept. She said, "My son is facing life in prison. Life for a fight. While the boys who hung nooses are sitting at home. How is that justice? How is that America? How is this still happening?" Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. She said, "I need you to fight for my son like he was your son. Because if they can do this to him, they can do it to any of your children." The crowd responded. Thousands of voices shouting, "Free them." Thousands of fists raised. Thousands of people who took time off work, spent money they didn't have, traveled hundreds of miles because 6 black teenagers in Louisiana needed the nation to see them. Needed the nation to say this is wrong. Needed the nation to apply pressure. That's the bridge generation. That's your parents, your aunts and uncles, your grandparents. They got on buses and went to Jena. They weren't famous. They weren't celebrities. They were regular black folks who said, "Not on my watch, not to our children." The march worked. Not completely, not perfectly, but it worked. The national attention forced the legal system to blink. Michael Bell's conviction was overturned on appeal. He was released from adult prison, and his case was moved to juvenile court. He eventually pled guilty to a reduced charge and served 18 months in juvenile detention. Not freedom, but better than 22 years in adult prison. The other 5 defendants, Robert Bailey Carwin Jones, Bryant Purvis, Theo Shaw, and Jesse Ray Beard, all accepted plea deals. They pled guilty to simple battery, a misdemeanor. No jail time, but criminal records. They took the deals because fighting meant risking decades in prison. It was coercion disguised as justice. But at least they went home to their families. Jena became a symbol. It proved that in the age of MySpace and black radio, before Twitter existed, before Facebook was widely used for activism, the black community could still mobilize 20,000 people to a small Louisiana town. It proved that the spirit of the Montgomery bus, boycott the freedom rides, the March on Washington, That spirit was alive in the bridge generation. It proved that black people would still travel for justice, still put their bodies on the line, still show up for each other's children. And it revealed the ugly truth about the criminal justice system in 2007. The noose hangers, those 3 white students, were never charged with anything. Not terroristic threatening, not hate crimes, not assault, nothing. They hung symbols of lynching at a school and faced 3-day suspensions. Meanwhile, 6 black teenagers who fought back after months of racial terrorism faced attempted murder charges and decades in prison. The system showed its cards. It said, "We will always protect white violence and criminalize black self-defense. We will always punish you harder for fighting back than we punish them for threatening you. That's the rule. That's the pattern. That's America." The Jena Six families didn't stop after the march. They became advocates. They spoke at schools. They testified before Congress about prosecutorial abuse and racial disparities in the justice system. They warned other families this could be your son, this could be your daughter. The school-to-prison pipeline is real. A fight at school can become a felony that destroys your child's future. You have to pay attention. You have to organize. You have to fight. And they were right, because for every Jena Six that got national attention, there were hundreds of cases that didn't. Thousands of black children charged as adults for schoolyard behavior. Thousands of families who couldn't afford lawyers or bail. Thousands of teenagers sitting in adult prisons right now for nonviolent offenses or for defending themselves. The Jena Six were lucky. They had a community that organized. They had radio hosts who amplified their story. They had 20,000 people who showed up. Most families don't get that. Most families suffer in silence while the system grinds their children into statistics. But here's what the media didn't tell you. The Jena Six march wasn't an anomaly. It was part of a pattern. All through the 90s and 2000s, black communities were organizing, marching, protesting, demanding justice for victims of police violence and prosecutorial abuse. And most of those protests never made national news. Most of those names you never learned. Most of those mothers never got to speak on national television. They fought in obscurity. But they fought, and they laid the groundwork for everything that came after. Let me tell you about some of them. The mothers you never heard of. The names you were never taught. The warriors who kept fighting when the cameras looked away. Because if you don't know their names, you don't know your history. And if you don't know your history, you can't understand why Black Lives Matter exists. You can't understand where the courage came from. You can't understand that this didn't start in 2014. This has been happening for decades. And the bridge generation has been fighting for decades. It's time you met them. Valerie Bell, that's a name you need to know. Her son Sean Bell was 23 years old, and he was supposed to get married on November 25th, 2006. Supposed to. That was the plan. Instead, November 25th became the day she buried him. November 25th, 2006. 4 in the morning. Sean Bell was leaving his bachelor party at Club Kahlua in Queens, New York. His fiancée, Nicole Poultray, was at home. Probably couldn't sleep, probably excited about the wedding happening in a few hours. Sean got into his car with 2 friends, Joseph Guzman and Trent Benefield. They were heading home. They were unarmed. They were about to drive away. And then undercover NYPD officers opened fire, 50 bullets. 5 NYPD officers fired 50 rounds into Sean Bell's car. 50. Detective Michael Oliver fired 31 shots. He emptied his gun, reloaded, and kept shooting. His partner fired 11 shots. Another officer fired 4, another 3, another 1. 50 bullets total. Sean Bell was hit multiple times. He died at the scene. Joseph Guzman was shot 19 times. 19 times, and he survived. Trent Benefield was shot 3 times. The officers claimed they thought someone in the car had a gun. No gun was found. 3 unarmed black men, 50 bullets, on what was supposed to be Sean Bell's wedding day. Nicole Paltry wore her wedding dress to Sean's funeral. Think about that image. A bride in her wedding gown standing over her fiancé's casket. She had taken his last name anyway. She became Nicole Paltry Bell, even though they never made it to the altar. She said he proposed to her. She said yes. She took his name. Death doesn't change that. Valerie Bell Sean's mother was 53 years old. She had raised her son, watched him grow up, watched him fall in love, watched him plan his wedding, and now she was planning his funeral. She could have collapsed into grief. She could have stayed home and mourned privately. But she didn't. She met Kadiatou Diallo, Amadou's mother. She met Iris Baez, whose son, Anthony Baez, was killed by NYPD in 1994. She met the mothers who came before her, and they taught her how to fight. Valerie organized daily protests. She blocked bridges. She shut down courthouses. She disrupted traffic. She made sure New York City could not forget Sean Bell's name or the 50 bullets that killed him. When the 3 officers, Michael Oliver Gescard Isnora and Mark Cooper, went to trial in 2008, Valerie was there every single day. She sat in that courtroom and stared at the men who killed her son. She listened to them testify. She listened to them claim they feared for their lives. She listened to them explain why they fired 50 times at unarmed men. And on April 25, 2008, she listened to the judge acquit them. All 3. Not guilty on all charges. 50 bullets. No conviction. No accountability. No justice. New York exploded. Again. Protesters blocked 6 bridges and tunnels simultaneously. Traffic came to a standstill. Thousands of people poured into the streets. They chanted Sean Bell. 50 shots. No justice, no peace. They weren't violent. They were disruptive. They were saying you cannot kill us with impunity and expect us to go about our day. You cannot acquit killers and expect us to accept it quietly. Those days are over. Valerie Bell kept fighting. She filed a civil lawsuit. In 2010, the city settled for $7.1 million. $7 million for Sean's estate. $1 million for Joseph Guzman, who was shot 19 times. $900,000 for Trent Benefield. But Valerie said the same thing Kadiatou Diallo said years earlier. The money doesn't bring him back. The money doesn't make it right. The money is acknowledgement that they were wrong, but it's not justice. Justice would be accountability. Justice would be those officers in prison. Justice would be Sean walking his daughter down the aisle at her wedding someday. But Sean is dead, and his daughter grew up without a father. And that's a debt money can't pay. Valerie Bell didn't get national TV interviews. She didn't write a best-selling book. She didn't become a household name. But she showed up. Every day. For years. She organized with other mothers. She spoke at churches, at community centers, at schools. She told Sean's story over and over, so people wouldn't forget. And when Eric Garner was killed in 2014, when his mother, Gwen Carr, needed guidance, Valerie was there. She said, "This is what you do. This is how you survive. This is how you turn grief into power." That's the bridge generation. Passing down strategies. Passing down strength. Passing down the will to keep fighting when everything in you wants to give up. Let me tell you about another mother, Iris Baez. December 22, 1994. Her son Anthony Baez was 29 years old. He was playing football with his brothers outside their apartment in the Bronx. It was cold. It was late. They were just having fun. The football accidentally hit a police car. That's it. That's the whole incident. A football hit a car. Officer Francis Lavotti got out of the car. He was angry. He told them to stop playing. They said okay and started to go inside. But Livoti wasn't done. He followed them. He grabbed Anthony. He put him in a chokehold. An illegal chokehold. The NYPD had banned chokeholds in 1993, but Livoti used one anyway. Anthony had asthma. He couldn't breathe. He told Livoti he couldn't breathe. Those words. I can't breathe. In 1994, 20 years before Eric Garner would say the same words, Anthony Baez said, I can't breathe. And Francis Livoti kept choking him. Anthony died right there on the street, in front of his brothers, for hitting a police car with a football. Iris Baez fought for 6 years to get justice. 6 years. Livoti was tried in state court in 1996 and acquitted by a judge. Not a jury. A judge. Judge Gerald Scheindlin, who happened to be married to Judge Judy Scheindlin, the TV judge decided that Livoti was not guilty of criminally negligent homicide. He said the evidence wasn't sufficient, even though Anthony died from injuries consistent with a chokehold. Even though witnesses testified that Livoti used a chokehold. Even though the medical examiner ruled it a homicide. The judge said not guilty. Iris didn't stop. She pushed for federal charges, civil rights violations. In 1998, Francis Livoti was convicted in federal court of violating Anthony Baez's civil rights. He was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison. Finally. Justice. Not enough justice. 7 years for taking a life. But something. Some accountability. Some acknowledgement that Anthony Baez mattered. Iris Baez co-founded an organization called Parents Against Police Brutality. She and other mothers, including Margarita Rosario, whose son Anthony Rosario was killed by NYPD in 1995, organized families who lost loved ones to police violence. They created a network, a support system. They testified before Congress. They pushed for legislation. They trained other mothers how to navigate the legal system, how to work with media, how to organize protests, how to survive the trauma of losing a child, and then having to fight the system that killed them. When Amadou Diallo was killed in 1999, Iris mentored Kadiatou. When Sean Bell was killed in 2006, Iris mentored Valerie. When Ramarley Graham was killed in 2012, Iris was there for his mother, Constance Malcolm. She built a movement of mothers. The media never covered it. There was no documentary about parents against police brutality. There was no national profile of Iris Baez, but she was there for decades, teaching, organizing, keeping the names alive. Constance Malcolm. Her son Ramarley Graham was 18 years old when NYPD officer Richard Haste shot him in his own bathroom on February 2, 2012. Ramarley was unarmed. He was in his own home. His grandmother and 6-year-old brother were in the apartment. Haste broke down the door without a warrant. He chased Ramarley to the bathroom. He shot him once in the chest. He claimed he thought Ramarley had a gun. No gun was found. Ramarley died in his own home, in front of his family, for the crime of running from police, who had no right to break into his house. Constance Malcolm was part of the network before Ramarley was killed. She had been organizing with other mothers since the 2000s. She watched Valerie Bell bury Sean. She watched Kadiatou fight for Amadou. She prayed it would never be her. And then it was. And when it was, she didn't have to start from scratch. She called the mothers. Iris, Valerie, Kadiatou. They came. They taught her. They walked with her. They showed her how to survive the impossible. Between 1994 and 2010, at least 50 high-profile police killings of unarmed black people happened in New York City alone. 50. That's not counting the ones that didn't make the news. That's not counting the ones the media called justified. That's not counting the ones that happened in other cities. Just New York, just the ones that got some attention. 50. Each one had a mother. Each mother became an activist. Most never made national news. But they built networks. They trained each other. They passed down strategies. They became the infrastructure that Black Lives Matter would later build on. Your mother might be one of them. Your aunt, your grandmother, your neighbor. They marched. They organized. They buried their children and kept fighting. And nobody wrote them into the history books. Nobody gave them credit. Nobody even remembered their names. Until now. Until you. You're remembering right now. You're learning right now. You're carrying these names forward right now. Iris Baez, Valerie Bell, Kadiatou Diallo, Constance Malcolm, Margarita Rosario, Caseptla Bailey, Angela Leisure. Say their names. Remember their names. They are the backbone of Black Lives Matter. They are the bridge. They connected the 60s to 2014. They never stopped fighting. They never gave up. They trained the next generation. They passed the torch. And when Eric Garner was killed in 2014 and his mother Gwen Carr needed help, these mothers were there. They said, "We've been doing this for 20 years. Let us show you how." That's your history. That's your legacy. These mothers didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for the media to pay attention. They didn't wait for white approval. They organized. They fought. They survived. And they made sure their children's names would never be forgotten. Now you know. Now you carry those names too. Don't let them be forgotten again. But here's what you need to understand. These weren't isolated incidents. This wasn't a few bad apples. This was a pattern, a systematic pattern of police violence, followed by systematic acquittals, followed by systematic media erasure. And the pattern proves this was policy, not accident. Let me show you exactly how deep this goes. August 9th, 1997, Brooklyn, New York. Abner Louima, a Haitian immigrant, was arrested outside a nightclub after a fight broke out. He wasn't fighting. He was trying to break up the fight. But NYPD officers arrested him anyway. They took him to the 70th Precinct Station House. And what happened next is one of the most horrific cases of police brutality in American history. Officer Justin Volpe took Abner Louima to the bathroom. He beat him. Then he sodomized him with a broken broomstick. He shoved it into Louima's rectum and then into his mouth. He ruptured Louima's bladder and colon. He caused injuries so severe that Louima needed multiple surgeries and had to wear a colostomy bag for months. And while he was torturing Louima, Volpe said, "This is Giuliani time," referring to Mayor Rudolph Giuliani, who had given NYPD free rein to be as aggressive as they wanted under the banner of quality of life policing. This wasn't a split-second decision. This wasn't an officer who feared for his life. This was torture. Premeditated sadistic torture inside a police station. And other officers knew. They heard Louima screaming. They saw Volpe walk out of that bathroom with the broomstick. And they did nothing. They let a man be tortured in their station, and they stayed silent. Abner Louima survived. Barely. He was hospitalized for 2 months. His injuries were so severe that doctors initially thought he might not make it. But he lived, and he told his story. The Haitian community in New York erupted. They marched. They protested. They demanded every officer involved be charged. 12 news stories covered protests before the officers were even indicted. Churches organized. Community groups organized. The Haitian American Alliance mobilized thousands. Even though nobody defended the torture, the debate in the media was always about whether this was an isolated incident or part of a broader pattern under Mayor Giuliani's aggressive policing policies. The media couldn't just call it what it was, police terrorism. They had to debate whether it was systemic. Meanwhile, Black and Haitian New Yorkers were saying, "We've been telling you it's systemic. We've been saying Giuliani's policies are violent. We've been saying the NYPD operates with impunity. But you didn't listen until they tortured a man with a broomstick so brutally that you couldn't ignore it. Justin Volpe eventually pled guilty. He was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison. Other officers were convicted of obstruction of justice. Some accountability happened, but only because the brutality was so extreme and so undeniable that the system couldn't protect them this time. But here's the thing. Abner Louima wasn't the first person brutalized by NYPD under Giuliani. He was just the one whose torture was so horrific that it broke through the media silence. 18 months later, Amadou Diallo was shot 41 times. Protesters said, "You see, it's not isolated. Louima was tortured. Amadou was killed. Patrick Dorismond will be next." And they were right. March 16, 2000. Patrick Dorismond was 26 years old, working as a security guard in Manhattan. He was off duty waiting for a cab to take him home. 2 undercover NYPD officers approached him. They asked if he knew where they could buy marijuana. Patrick said no and told them to leave him alone. He didn't use drugs. He wasn't a dealer. He was a working man trying to get home. But the officers kept pressuring him. An argument started. It escalated. Officer Anthony Vasquez shot Patrick Dorismond in the chest. He died on the street for refusing to help undercover cops buy drugs. Think about that. Undercover officers approached a random black man and tried to get him to sell them drugs. When he refused and got angry about being harassed, they killed him, and then the NYPD and Mayor Giuliani blamed him. Giuliani released Patrick Dorismond's sealed juvenile records to the press. Sealed records. From when Dorismond was a minor. Records that are legally protected. Giuliani released them to smear a dead man. To say, see, he was a troublemaker. He had a record as a teenager. He deserved what he got. Patrick Dorismond had never been arrested as an adult. Not once. He was working. He was supporting his family. But Giuliani needed to justify the killing, so he violated the law to attack a dead man's character. That's how far they'll go to protect killer cops. They'll break the law. They'll smear the victims. They'll do anything except hold officers accountable. Massive protests followed. Thousands marched. Giuliani refused to meet with black leaders. He called protesters race baiters and agitators. He said the protesters were making race an issue when it wasn't, as if NYPD approaching a black man to buy drugs then killing him when he refused had nothing to do with race. Protests turned into blockades, daily disruptions at police precincts for months. Officer Anthony Vasquez was never charged, not criminally, not administratively. No charges, no discipline. Patrick Dorismond's mother, Marie, received a $2.25 million settlement from the city 4 years later. But her son was still dead, and the officer who killed him walked free. This was the third high-profile NYPD killing in 3 years. Louima tortured in 1997, Diallo killed in 1999, Dorismond killed in 2000. But the media kept calling each one isolated, kept debating whether there was a pattern, kept bringing on NYPD officials to say we're implementing reforms, we're doing better. These are tragic but rare incidents. Meanwhile, black New Yorkers were screaming, it's not rare, it's constant, it's every year, it's multiple times a year, it's policy. But the media wouldn't connect the dots for America. They left each story isolated, each name separate, each family alone. But the families weren't alone. They found each other. They organized together. Iris Baez, who lost her son Anthony in 1994, mentored Kadiatou Diallo in 1999. Kadiatou mentored Valerie Bell in 2006. They built a network that the media never covered. A movement of mothers that kept growing, kept fighting, kept preserving the names. And that network would be ready when the next wave came. January 1st, 2009, Oakland, California. Oscar Grant was 22 years old. He was riding the BART train home from San Francisco after celebrating New Year's Eve. A fight broke out on the train. BART police pulled several young men off the train at Fruitvale Station, including Oscar Grant. They forced them to sit against the wall. Oscar was compliant. He wasn't fighting. He wasn't resisting. He was sitting. He was unarmed. Officer Johannes Mazerle stood over Oscar Grant. Oscar was face down on the platform. His hands were behind his back. Another officer was kneeling on him. He wasn't a threat. He couldn't move. And Johannes Mazerle pulled his gun and shot Oscar Grant in the back. One shot. Oscar died 7 hours later at Highland Hospital. He left behind a 4-year-old daughter named Tatiana, who would grow up without her father. Here's what makes Oscar Grant's killing different. It was on video. Multiple videos. Dozens of people were on that platform with cell phones. They recorded everything. The videos went viral immediately. The world saw Oscar Grant lying face down. The world saw him not resisting. The world saw the officer shoot him in the back. There was no ambiguity. No he said, she said. No conflicting witness statements. Just video. Clear, undeniable video. And still, Johannes Mazerle wasn't arrested immediately. It took 7 days. 7 days and massive protests before Oakland police arrested him. Even with video showing him shoot an unarmed man in the back, they made people march and disrupt and shut down the city before they would arrest him. Oakland erupted. Hundreds marched daily. Some protests turned into uprisings. Store windows were smashed. Cars were burned. The media called it riots. Activists called it rebellion. The mayor called for calm. But the people were saying, we watched the video. We saw him murdered. And you still won't arrest the cop immediately. How much more evidence do you need? How much more clear does it need to be? A man was shot in the back while handcuffed on the ground, and you need to think about whether to arrest the killer. That's the message. That even with video, even with witnesses, even with undeniable proof, the system will still protect killer cops. Will still make us beg for basic accountability. Mazerle was eventually charged with murder. He went to trial in June 2010. His defense was that he meant to use his taser, but grabbed his gun by mistake. He said it was an accident. The jury convicted him of involuntary manslaughter, not murder. Involuntary manslaughter. For shooting a restrained man in the back on video. He was sentenced to 2 years. With time served and good behavior, he served 11 months. 11 months for killing Oscar Grant. Less than a year, Oakland erupted again after the verdict. Protesters said, "This is why we don't trust the system. This is why we say the system is rigged. Because even with video, even with a conviction, they still get a slap on the wrist." 11 months. That's what a black life is worth in the American justice system. 11 months. Oscar Grant's name spread beyond Oakland. His story was told across the country. A movie was made about his life called Fruitvale Station, starring Michael B. Jordan. It came out in 2013, 1 year before Michael Brown was killed in Ferguson. The film reminded America that Oscar Grant happened. That police kill unarmed black people and get away with it. That even video evidence doesn't guarantee justice. And when Ferguson exploded in 2014, activists remembered Oscar Grant. They said even with video, they let Mazerle walk. We have to do more than protest. We have to disrupt everything. We have to make them feel the pain, economically, politically, socially. Because videos aren't enough. Marches aren't enough. We need power. Do you see the pattern now? Abner Louima tortured in 1997. Amadou Diallo shot 41 times in 1999. Patrick Dorismond killed and then smeared in 2000. Timothy Thomas, the 15th victim in 6 years, killed in Cincinnati in 2001. Sean Bell shot 50 times in 2006. Oscar Grant shot in the back on video in 2009. Every single time the story was the same. Unarmed black person, police violence, community outrage, mass protests. Media calls it isolated. Officers acquitted or given minimal sentences. Families get settlements, but no justice. Repeat, repeat, repeat. This happened dozens of times between 1994 and 2010. This list isn't complete. These are just the high-profile cases, the ones that got enough attention that we remember the names. But there were hundreds more. Hundreds of black people killed by police in those 16 years whose names you don't know, whose families organized and protested and got no media coverage, whose deaths were called justified before any investigation happened, whose killers were never even charged. The bridge generation was connecting the dots. They saw the pattern even when the media refused to. They said, "This isn't random. This isn't a few bad apples. This is systematic. This is policy. This is what happens when you give police military weapons, qualified immunity, union protection, and a culture that says your safety matters more than civilian lives. This is what happens when prosecutors work hand in hand with police and refuse to charge their colleagues. This is what happens when juries are told to give officers the benefit of the doubt, no matter what the evidence shows. This is what happens when the media frames every killing as isolated instead of part of a genocide. Meanwhile, black activists were organizing nationally. They were building coalitions. Malcolm X's grassroots movement formed in the 90s, organizing around police brutality, political prisoners, and reparations. The National Action Network, founded by Al Sharpton in 1991, provided infrastructure for protests. Local organizations in every major city, from People's Organization for Progress in New Jersey to Coalition Against Police Brutality in St. Paul, to October 22nd, Coalition nationally, were coordinating actions, training activists, documenting police violence, and preparing for the moment when the nation would finally be forced to pay attention. That moment came in 2014 with Michael Brown in Ferguson. But Ferguson didn't come from nowhere. It came from 20 years of bridge generation warriors laying the foundation. Training organizers, testing tactics, building networks, preserving names. And when Ferguson exploded in 2014, the infrastructure was already there. The mothers were already connected. The activists already knew each other. The strategies had already been developed. Black Lives Matter didn't invent a movement. They activated a network that had been building in the shadows for decades. If this truth just hit you, if you just realized you were lied to about the gap between civil rights and BLM, I need you to do something right now. Comment "bridge" below. Just that word, bridge, because that's what this generation is. The bridge between the 60s and today. If you marched in the 90s or 2000s and nobody remembers, comment "I was there" and tell us what city, what year. If you lost someone to police violence between 1994 and 2010, drop their name in the comments. We will remember them. We will honor them. We will make sure they're not forgotten. Hit that like button if you're tired of your generation being erased from history. This video is for the 45 to 65-year-olds who thought nobody saw your sacrifice. We see you. History sees you. God sees you. And your children need to see you too. So comment. Share. Make your voice heard. This isn't just YouTube engagement. This is historical documentation. Your comment becomes part of the record. When your grandchildren search for this history, your testimony will be there. You are writing the history they tried to erase right now in this comment section. So write it. Tell your story. Say their names. But now you need to understand something even more disturbing. It's not just that these killings happened. It's how they covered them up. How they made sure you would never learn the full truth. How they erased an entire movement from history while it was happening. The suppression machine was sophisticated, coordinated, and effective. Let me show you exactly how they did it. The media didn't just ignore black protests. They actively distorted them. Let me show you the numbers. Researchers analyzed thousands of protest events between 1994 and 2010, comparing mainstream newswire coverage to black newspaper coverage. What they found was shocking, but not surprising. Mainstream newswires like Associated Press and Reuters focused almost exclusively on incidents of police violence and perceived threats of black violence. When black people protested peacefully about systemic racism, economic inequality, education funding, or environmental justice, mainstream news didn't cover it. But when a single window got broken during a protest about police brutality, that's what made the news. The broken window, not the dead body that caused the protest. Black newspapers covered the full spectrum of black activism: worker strikes, anti-violence campaigns, education justice protests, housing rights organizing, prison reform movements. All of it. Meanwhile, mainstream media acted like black people only existed when reacting to being killed or when threatening property. That was the narrative. Black people are either victims or threats. Never organizers, never strategists, never builders of sustained movements. Here's the pattern. When protesters were peaceful and strategic, mainstream media said small turnout, no impact, nothing to see here. When protesters were disruptive, blocked traffic shut down, businesses, mainstream media said violent riot thugs destroying their own communities. Why can't they protest peacefully? It was a trap. Peaceful protest was ignored. Disruptive protest was criminalized. There was no way to win in the media narrative. After the Cincinnati uprising in 2001, headlines screamed, "Race riots." Not police accountability uprising. Not rebellion against 15 killings. Just race riots, as if black people randomly decided to riot for no reason. The 15 bodies that led to that moment were buried in paragraph 7 of news stories. If they were mentioned at all. The media focused on burning buildings, not the burning injustice that caused it. After Amadou Diallo, the New York Times covered Al Sharpton 60% more than they covered Kadiatou Diallo, Amadou's mother. They covered the celebrity activist more than the grieving mother. They were more interested in the famous black man giving speeches than the immigrant woman who lost her son and turned her pain into a movement. When 50,000 people marched for Amadou, media focused on the 12 people arrested for blocking traffic, not the 49,988 who marched peacefully. They always found the most dramatic angle and ignored the substance. And here's the really sinister part. When white people riot after sports games, burning cars, flipping over vehicles, smashing windows, fighting in the streets, the media calls it celebrating, or unruly fans, or high spirits. But when black people rebel after the 15th police killing in 6 years, it's called a race riot. It's called thugs. It's called animals. The language reveals the bias. White violence is boys being boys. Black resistance is terrorism. Between 1994 and 2001, black protest coverage increased steadily. More events, more organization, more coordination. The movement was growing. Activists were learning from each other. Networks were forming. And then, September 11th, 2001 happened. Protest coverage dropped by 60% almost overnight. The war on terror began. Media attention shifted entirely to terrorism, homeland security patriotism, supporting the troops. Suddenly protesting anything made you unpatriotic. Criticizing police made you anti-American. Demanding accountability made you a terrorist sympathizer. That was the message. And black activism became invisible exactly when it mattered most. This wasn't an accident. This was strategy. Make black resistance disappear exactly when it mattered most. The legal system didn't just fail to punish killer cops. It actively suppressed black resistance. The 1994 crime bill wasn't just about locking up drug dealers. It was about locking up a generation. President Bill Clinton signed the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act in September 1994. $9.7 billion for prisons, $6.1 billion for police, 3 strikes laws, mandatory minimums, death penalty expansion, federal grants for states that passed truth in sentencing laws, keeping people in prison longer. The result, black incarceration rates exploded. By 2000, 1 in 3 black men between ages 20 and 29 were in prison on probation or on parole. 1 in 3. Think about that. An entire generation of black men under correctional control. You can't protest when you're locked up. You can't organize when you're on probation. You can't vote when you're a felon. You can't do anything when the system has you in a cage or under surveillance. The war on drugs had already eroded Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable search and seizure. Police could stop you for any reason. Search you without a warrant. Arrest you for tiny amounts of drugs, or for resisting arrest, even when the initial stop was illegal. Stop and frisk became official policy in New York and other cities. No warrant needed, no probable cause, just suspicion. And suspicion meant black skin. In New York, stop and frisk peaked at 685,000 stops in 2011. Nearly 90% were black or Latino. 88% were innocent, not carrying anything illegal. But that wasn't the point. The point was harassment. The point was surveillance. The point was making black people feel watched, controlled, unable to move freely. How do you organize when police can stop you anytime search? You arrest you for resisting, even when they had no right to stop you in the first place. You can't. That's the point. After September 11th, the Patriot Act gave police massive new surveillance powers. NYPD started infiltrating mosques, black churches, activist groups. They sent undercover officers to meetings, rallies, protests. They kept lists of attendees. They photographed organizers. They built files on people whose only crime was attending a protest. FBI monitored black radical organizations, just like they did in the 60s with COINTELPRO. The tactics changed slightly, but the goal was the same. Disrupt, intimidate, make activism dangerous, make people afraid to organize. And they used the legal system as a weapon. The Jena Six teenagers were charged with attempted murder for a schoolyard fight. Attempted murder. Potential life sentences for fighting back after months of racial terrorism that included nooses hung at their school. The message was clear. If you resist, we will destroy you. We will charge you as adults. We will give you decades in prison. We will make an example of you, so other black children know what happens when they fight back. Cincinnati protesters. 800 arrested during the 2001 uprising. Most charges were dropped eventually, but the arrest record stays on your background check. Harder to get jobs, harder to get housing, harder to get loans. The legal system became a weapon, not to get convictions, but to intimidate, to drain resources, to make activism too expensive, too dangerous, too costly for ordinary people to sustain. And then there's educational erasure. History classes teach civil rights movement in the 60s, then jump straight to Barack Obama in 2008, like nothing happened in between. 40 years disappeared. Textbooks act like MLK died, things got better, racism ended, and then Obama proved America was post-racial. That's the story they tell. It's a lie. Students today don't learn about Amadou Diallo, Sean Bell, Oscar Grant, Timothy Thomas, Jena Six. They jump from Rodney King in 1992 to Trayvon Martin in 2012 like those 20 years were empty. Like nobody organized, like nobody protested, like nobody fought. The bridge generation is completely erased from curriculum. Your children don't know what you did. Your grandchildren don't know what you survived. And that's intentional. Why erase this history? Because the bridge generation didn't win. like the 60s generation did. There was no Civil Rights Act passed in 2000, no Voting Rights Act of 2005. Just incremental reforms, consent decrees in a few city settlements for families, but no sweeping legal victories. And America likes winners. America likes stories where good triumphs over evil in the end. The bridge generation story is messier. It's people who fought for decades and watched killer cops walk free over and over. That's not inspiring to textbook publishers. That's depressing. So they cut it. Also, the bridge generation used controversial tactics: property damage, disruptive protests, militant language, armed self-defense in some cases. Too radical for textbooks, too uncomfortable for white parents. So they sanitized the history. They kept the parts that made white people comfortable, the peaceful marches, the mothers crying, the Martin Luther King dream quotes. They cut the parts that made white people uncomfortable, the rebellions, the disruptions, the demands for reparations, the armed community defense. Teaching this history would mean admitting that police brutality never stopped, that the struggle never ended, that the system is still broken. And America doesn't want to admit that. America wants to believe we're making progress. Things are getting better. Racism is fading. Teaching about the bridge generation would shatter that narrative. So they erased it. And here's the result. Your children learned about MLK, but not about the mothers who fought police brutality in the 90s. They learned, I have a dream, but not no justice, no peace. They learned peaceful marching works, but not that the bridge generation marched for 20 years and officers still walked free. They don't know the full story. They don't know your story. And if you don't tell them, nobody will. Because the schools won't. The textbooks won't. The media won't. It's on you. The bridge generation has to tell its own story before it's lost forever. Police unions blocked accountability at every turn. The Patrolmen's Benevolent Association in New York is one of the most powerful unions in America. Every time an officer was charged, the PBA held press conferences defending them, called them heroes, raised hundreds of thousands for legal defense funds. When Amadou Diallo's killers went to trial, hundreds of off-duty cops rallied in support. They wore their uniforms. They held signs saying, "NYPD, we're the finest." They stood behind officers who shot an unarmed man 41 times, and they called them heroes. The message to Black New Yorkers: we protect our own no matter what, no matter who they kill, no matter what the evidence shows. We will defend killer cops with the full weight of the union. Politicians provided cover. Mayor Rudolph Giuliani defended NYPD violence throughout the 90s. He called protesters agitators and race baiters. He refused to meet with black leaders. When Patrick Dorismond was killed, Giuliani broke the law to release his sealed juvenile records just to smear a dead man. That's how far politicians will go to protect police. They'll break the law. They'll smear the victims. They'll do anything except hold officers accountable. Prosecutors work hand in hand with police. District attorneys who aggressively prosecute cops don't get reelected. Police unions make sure of it. They fund opponents. They turn officers against prosecutors. They make it politically toxic to charge cops. So prosecutors give cops the benefit of the doubt. They bring weak charges. They present weak cases. They let officers testify without challenging their lies. And then when juries acquit, prosecutors shrug and say, "We tried." The Department of Justice could have intervened. Civil rights violations are federal crimes. Between 1994 and 2009, how many police officers did DOJ prosecute? A handful. A tiny fraction of the thousands of killings that happened. DOJ would issue reports saying, "We found a pattern of abuse in this department. We recommend reforms." But no charges, no consequences. Just recommendations that departments ignored. Media made activism invisible. Laws made organizing dangerous. Schools made history disappear. Institutions protected the killers. That was the suppression machine. Coordinated, effective, devastating. And it worked. By 2010, most Americans thought black activism was dead, thought police brutality was getting better, thought the problem was solved or at least solving. They were wrong. The bridge generation never stopped fighting. They just stopped getting coverage. But here's what the suppression machine couldn't kill. The networks. The mothers stayed connected. The organizations kept training new activists. The churches kept organizing. The community kept remembering the names. And when 2014 came, when Michael Brown was killed and Ferguson exploded, the infrastructure was already there. The playbook had been written. The coalitions had been built. The bridge generation was ready to pass the torch. And that's exactly what happened. Black Lives Matter didn't emerge from thin air. It emerged from decades of groundwork laid by the generation you've been learning about. The bridge generation. Your generation. And it's time the world understood that connection. Here's why all of this matters right now today in your life. The wealth gap didn't happen by accident. Mass incarceration wasn't random. The struggles your family faces today are directly connected to what happened to the bridge generation. Let me show you exactly how. In 1994, when the crime bill passed, black household median wealth was $9,000. White household wealth was $56,000. That's a 6 times gap. Bad, but not impossible to close. By 2010, black median wealth had dropped to $5,000. $5,000. It went down. Meanwhile, white wealth grew to $110,000. Now it's a 22 times gap. It got worse. Much worse. And it happened during the bridge generation's prime earning years. Why? Because the war on drugs and mass incarceration destroyed black economic mobility. When you're incarcerated, you can't work. You lose your job. Your family loses income. When you come out with a felony, you can't get hired. Studies show 60% of formerly incarcerated people are unemployed a year after release. 60%. You can't get student loans with a drug conviction. You can't get public housing with a felony. You can't vote in many states. You're locked out of everything. You served your time, but the punishment never ends. Meanwhile, your family pays while you're inside. Commissary so you can buy soap and toothpaste because prisons don't provide basics. Phone calls at $1 per minute from prison, sometimes more. Your mother spends $50 just to talk to you for an hour. Legal fees, court costs, restitution. Families go into debt trying to keep their loved ones alive and connected behind bars. The prison system extracts wealth from black families while men are locked up and then make sure they can't earn it back when they get out. This is generational theft. The bridge generation people, now 45 to 65 years old, were the primary targets of mass incarceration. Your generation was locked up at historic rates during your prime earning years, your 20s, 30s, 40s. The years you should have been building careers, buying homes, starting businesses, saving for retirement, building wealth to pass to your children. Those years were stolen, spent in cages, or spent on probation, unable to get good jobs, or spent with felony records that followed you forever. That's why your children are struggling. That's why millennials and Gen Z are drowning in debt with no assets. Because their parents' generation was systematically prevented from building wealth. Your earning years were stolen. Your opportunities were blocked. Your neighborhoods were flooded with drugs. And then you were criminalized for it. And now they want to know why there's a wealth gap. This is why. They stole your prime years. They caged an entire generation. And then they ask why black families have no wealth, because you took it. You stole it through mass incarceration. The bridge generation knew this was happening in real time. That's why they protested. Not just police killings, also prisons, mandatory minimums, Three strikes laws, sentencing disparities, crack versus powder cocaine sentencing, where crack used more in black communities, got you 100 times longer sentences than powder cocaine used more in white communities. The Bridge generation protested all of it. They fought for Mumia Abu-Jamal's freedom. They protested private prisons profiting off black bodies. They organized against the school-to-prison pipeline funneling black children from classrooms to cells. The media ignored these protests, called them fringe, called the activists radicals. But they were fighting for your economic future. They were trying to stop the wealth extraction machine. And they were right. Everything they warned about came true. The wealth gap exploded. Black communities were devastated. Families were destroyed. And now here we are, living with the consequences of policies the Bridge generation tried to stop. Now let's talk about Black Lives Matter. When Eric Garner was killed in 2014, choked to death by NYPD while saying, "I can't breathe," his mother. Gwen Carr didn't start from scratch. She called the mothers, Kadiatou Diallo, Valerie Bell, Iris Baez, Constance Malcolm. They came. They taught her how to navigate media, how to organize, how to keep fighting when exhaustion sets in. Gwen Carr stood on their shoulders. When Trayvon Martin was killed in 2012 and his mother Sabrina Fulton needed guidance, the Bridge generation mothers were there. When Michael Brown was killed in 2014 and his mother, Leslie McSpadden, was thrust into a national spotlight, she never wanted the Bridge generation taught her how to handle it. The network that Iris Baez built in the 90s became the foundation for Mothers of the Movement, the coalition of mothers who lost children to police violence and gun violence, who organized during the 2016 election. The tactics used in Ferguson didn't come from nowhere. Blocking highways. Cincinnati did that in 2001. Shutting down shopping malls during Black Friday, New York activists did that for Sean Bell. Occupying police stations, Oakland did that for Oscar Grant. Die-ins, where protesters lay down in public spaces, done for Amadou Diallo in 1999. Every tactic that seemed new in 2014 had been tested and refined by the Bridge generation for 20 years. Black Lives Matter founders Alicia Garza, Patrice Cullors, and Opal Tometi are children of the Bridge generation. They grew up in the 90s and 2000s. They watched their parents' generation face mass incarceration. They saw the protests. They learned the strategies. Patrice Cullors' brother was beaten by prison guards. She became an organizer fighting prison abuse before she co-founded Black Lives Matter. Alicia Garza worked with grassroots organizations fighting police brutality in Oakland. These women didn't invent activism. They inherited it. They learned it from the generation that came before. Organizations established in the 90s provided infrastructure for BLM. Malcolm X grassroots movement, founded in 1993, trained young organizers who would become BLM leaders. Critical Resistance, founded in 1997 to fight prison expansion, educated activists about abolition. The National Action Network provided rally permits, legal support, media connections. Dream Defenders in Florida connected youth activists to elder organizers who had been fighting for decades. The infrastructure was already there. BLM activated it. And let's be clear about what BLM demanded: body cameras, community oversight, use of force restrictions, de-escalation training, bias training, consent decrees forcing police reform. All of these were demands from the Bridge generation in the 90s and 2000s. Activists demanded body cameras after Rodney King in 1992. They fought for civilian review boards in the 90s. They won the first major consent decree in Cincinnati in 2003. They sued police departments for pattern and practice violations throughout the 2000s. So what changed in 2014? Not the activism, not the demands, not the tactics. What changed was visibility. Smartphones put cameras in every pocket. Twitter gave protesters direct access to millions, bypassing traditional media gatekeepers. Live streaming brought America into protests in real time. Mainstream media couldn't ignore it anymore when millions were watching on social media. The activism was the same. The reach was different. But the work, the strategy, the courage, the sacrifice, that came from the bridge generation, from your generation. If you marched in the 90s and felt invisible, you weren't. You laid the foundation. You wrote the playbook. You trained the organizers. You built the networks. You kept the names alive. And when the world finally paid attention in 2014, your work made it possible. BLM is your legacy. They're standing on your shoulders. They're using strategies you developed. They're connected to networks you built. They're carrying names you preserved. Amadou Diallo, Sean Bell, Oscar Grant, Timothy Thomas. When BLM protesters chant those names, they're honoring you. They're saying, we know history didn't start in 2014. We know warriors came before us. We know the bridge generation carried us here. And it's time the world knew that too. It's time your children knew. It's time your grandchildren learned. It's time the textbooks included you. It's time the documentaries featured you. It's time you got the credit you deserve for keeping the movement alive through the darkest decades. Police brutality didn't stop. George Floyd in 2020 murdered on video while begging for his life. Breonna Taylor in 2020 killed in her own bed during a no-knock raid. Ahmaud Arbery in 2020 hunted down and killed while jogging. The names keep coming. The bodies keep piling up. Nothing changed except the cameras. The violence never stopped. The bridge generation tried to warn us. They said, this won't end until we dismantle the system. We didn't listen. And the killings continued. Mass incarceration persists. 2.3 million people in prison today. Still the highest in the world. Still disproportionately black. Still destroying families. Still stealing wealth. Still feeding itself. Private prison corporations are worth billions. Corrections officers' unions lobby to keep people locked up longer. The system protects itself because the system profits from caging black bodies, and the suppression continues. Anti-protest laws passed in multiple states between 2017 and 2024. Blocking highways is now a felony in Florida, Iowa, Oklahoma, and other states. Protesters can be run over by drivers who claim they feared for their safety. Tennessee made camping on state property a felony, specifically to target protesters. These laws are designed to make the tactics that worked in Ferguson illegal, to criminalize disruption, to make sure the next generation can't do what the bridge generation did. Police still infiltrate activist groups. Undercover officers exposed in Ferguson, Baltimore, Portland, Minneapolis. They join organizations. They attend meetings. They become trusted members, and then they report back to police. Sometimes they act as agent provocateurs, encouraging violence, so police have an excuse to crack down. The tactics from COINTELPRO never stopped. They just got more sophisticated. Social media surveillance is constant. Police track protesters through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Facial recognition at protests. License plate readers. Cell phone tracking. The surveillance state that expanded after 9/11 has turned full force on black activists. If you attend protests, you're in a database. If you organize, they know. The technology changed, but the goal is the same. Monitor black dissent. Intimidate black organizers. Make activism dangerous. But here's what they didn't count on. You, the bridge generation. Still alive. Still fighting. Still teaching. You have the memory. You have the experience. You have the scars and the wisdom. You survived the war on drugs. You survived mass incarceration. You survived media erasure. You survived the suppression machine. And you're still here. Your children need to hear your stories. Your grandchildren need to know what you survived. Because the struggle isn't over. The system is still broken. The violence is still happening. And the next generation needs to learn from yours. They need to know what worked, what didn't, what mistakes to avoid, what strategies to keep. You are living history. You are the bridge. And it's time to walk across that bridge and bring the next generation with you. Listen carefully. You are not the forgotten generation. You are the bridge generation, the foundation, the link between the civil rights era and the modern movement for Black lives. You marched when nobody was watching. You organized when media ignored you. You kept fighting when your friends gave up, when your leaders were locked up, when the system tried to break you. You survived. You are survivors of the war on drugs, of mass incarceration, of stop and frisk, of police brutality in its most invisible era, of media blackouts, of political abandonment, of economic devastation. You survived all of it, and you're still here. That makes you warriors, not victims. Warriors, you are the mothers who buried children and turned grief into movements. Kadiatou Diallo, who crossed an ocean to fight for her son. For Valerie Bell, who wore her pain like armor and marched every day. For Baez, who fought for 6 years and won. For Constance Malcolm, who kept the network alive. For Kadiatou Diallo, who stood on that stage in Jena and wept and demanded justice. For Angela Leisure, who said my baby died for a seatbelt and made the world listen. For every mother whose name we don't know, but whose sacrifice we honor. You are the fathers who went to prison and came home to organize, who survived the system designed to break you and then fought to dismantle that system, who taught your children how to resist, even though resistance is dangerous, who showed your sons and daughters that you don't bow to injustice no matter the cost. You are the activists who marched every week for years with no cameras, no recognition, no glory, who blocked bridges and shut down precincts and occupied city halls, who got arrested on purpose to keep the story alive, who spent your own money, your own time, your own energy fighting for justice when justice seemed impossible, who kept organizing even when it felt like nobody cared. You are the church members who chartered buses to Jena, Louisiana, because 6 teenagers needed you, who traveled hundreds of miles to stand with families you didn't know because they were your family in struggle, who gave your tithes and offerings to bail funds and legal defense funds and family support, who prayed and marched and prayed some more because you knew God called you to seek justice. You are the workers who struck even when Black newspapers were the only ones covering you, who demanded fair wages and safe conditions and dignity, who built unions in hostile environments, who refused to accept exploitation quietly, who understood that economic justice and racial justice are inseparable. Now hear this. They say your generation failed because police brutality didn't end. That's a lie. You didn't fail. The system failed to change. But you built the infrastructure that made the next wave possible. Every mother you mentored, every young activist you trained, every protest you organized, every name you preserved. That wasn't failure. That was foundation laying. That was bridge building. And the bridge is still standing. Black Lives Matter couldn't have happened without you. Ferguson couldn't have organized without the playbook you wrote. The movement for Black lives couldn't have formed without the networks you built. You did that. Your generation, your work, your sacrifice. And it's time you got credit for it. You did what your ancestors did. Your grandparents sat at lunch counters in the 60s. You blocked police precincts in the 90s. Your great-grandparents boycotted buses in Montgomery. You boycotted businesses in Cincinnati. Your ancestors escaped slavery through the Underground Railroad. You navigated mass incarceration and kept your family intact. You are worthy heirs to that legacy. And in some ways, you faced worse. The civil rights movement had national media attention. You had media blackout. The 60s generation won legal victories: the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act. You had the crime bill and mandatory minimums working against you. MLK eventually had federal protection. You had federal surveillance and infiltration. And you still fought. You still organized. You still showed up. That takes a special kind of courage, a special kind of faith, a special kind of strength. Your children inherited that strength. Your daughter protests today because she watched you protest. Your son speaks up against injustice because you taught him to. Your grandchildren know their history because you refused to let it be erased. You passed down courage, resilience, refusal to accept oppression. That's your legacy. That's your inheritance. And it's more valuable than money. It's survival. It's resistance. It's freedom. Why did God bring you through the crack epidemic that destroyed so many communities? Because you have a testimony. Why did God keep you out of prison when so many were locked up? Because you have work to do. Why did God give you children to raise during the most hostile era for Black families since Jim Crow? Because you're building the next generation of freedom fighters. Moses led people out of slavery. Your generation led people through the wilderness of mass incarceration. Joshua crossed into the promised land. Your children are crossing because you built the bridge. The Israelites wandered 40 years. You fought through a 40-year gap in the history books, and you survived. This isn't coincidence. This is purpose. This is calling. This is ministry. Your ministry isn't preaching from a pulpit necessarily. It's testifying about what you survived. It's showing your grandchildren what resistance looks like. It's saying, I marched for Amadou Diallo in 1999, and I'll march for George Floyd in 2020, because this is my calling. This is my assignment. This is what God put me on earth to do. The God of Exodus led people out of bondage, not deeper into it. The God who sent Moses sends you to speak truth, to demand justice, to set captives free. You are doing God's work when you protest, when you organize, when you demand accountability. That is ministry. That is worship. That is obedience to the God who commands us to do justice, love, mercy, and walk humbly. You marched when nobody watched. Now the world is watching. You trained activists in secret. Now they're leading millions. You preserved stories when media buried them. Now those stories are resurfacing. This is God's timing. This is divine strategy. This is vindication. You were the hidden generation. Now you're being revealed. This is your season to be honored, to be recognized, to be celebrated. And here's what God is saying to you right now. You are not too old. You are not too tired. You are not done. You are needed. Your wisdom is needed. Your experience is needed. Your testimony is needed. Your presence is needed. The next generation needs you, not to lead everything, but to guide, to mentor, to share what you know, to walk with them, to say, I've been here before, let me show you what I learned. You are the living link between past and present. You knew people who marched with MLK, and you know people leading BLM. You carry both stories. You bridge both eras. That's irreplaceable. That's sacred. That's your calling. Be the bridge. Tell your story. Pass the torch. But don't let go completely. Hold one end while the next generation holds the other. Walk together. March together. Fight together. Your ancestors are proud of you. The ones who survived slavery. The ones who survived Jim Crow. The ones who marched in the 60s. They see you. They know what you did. They know what you survived. They're cheering you on from the cloud of witnesses. Don't stop now. Don't give up now. You're too close. Justice is too near. Freedom is too possible. Keep going. And to the young people watching who didn't know this history, let me tell you something. That elder in your family who seems quiet, ask them about the 90s. Ask them about the protests. Ask them what they remember. They might have been there. They might have marched. They might have organized. They might be part of this bridge generation. And if they are sit at their feet, listen, learn, honor them, because they kept the movement alive during the years when nobody was paying attention. They're heroes. Treat them like it. We're almost done, but before we finish, I need you to do something. If you've made it this far, you're serious about truth. You're serious about justice. You're serious about knowing your history. So here's what I need from you. Subscribe to this channel right now. We're exposing hidden stories from the bridge generation that textbooks skipped. The worker strikes of the 90s, the prison protests of the 2000s, the education battles, the environmental justice fights, the economic organizing. Hundreds of stories that need to be told. And we're telling them. But we need you to subscribe, so YouTube shows these videos to more people. So the algorithm spreads truth instead of burying it. Next video dropping soon. The Black mothers who shut down police brutality units in the 90s and why nobody remembers them. Real stories, real names, real victories that got erased from history. You need to see it. Your children need to see it. Your community needs to see it. Share this video with someone from your generation. The person who marched with you, who organized with you, who survived with you. Send it to them right now. Tell them this is us. This is our story. This is our vindication. Let them know they weren't invisible. They weren't forgotten. Their work mattered. Their sacrifice built something lasting. And share it with your children and grandchildren. This is their history too. This is where BLM really came from. This is the bridge between the 60s and today. Make sure they know. Make sure they understand that the movement didn't start in 2014. It continued through the dark years. And their parents, their grandparents, their aunts and uncles were the ones who kept it alive. Comment below, right now. What protest do you remember that the media ignored? What name do you carry that the textbooks forgot? What city did you march in? What year? Drop it in the comments. Tell your story. This is your moment. This is your platform. This is your historical record. Write it. Document it. Make it permanent. If you lost someone to police violence between 1994 and 2010, say their name in the comments. Tell us who they were. Tell us what happened. Tell us why they mattered. We will see it. We will remember. We will honor them. Your comment might be the only place their name appears on the internet. Make it count. Say their name. The bridge generation is aging. Every day we lose elders who hold these stories. Every day memories fade. Every day witnesses pass away. If you don't tell your story now, it dies with you. Don't let that happen. Tell it. Write it. Record it. Pass it down. You are the living archive. You are the testimony. You are the proof that the struggle never stopped. This channel is building the history they tried to bury, but we can't do it without you. You're not just viewers. You're witnesses, contributors, historians, partners. Together, we're making sure the bridge generation gets the honor they deserve. Together, we're connecting the past to the present to the future. Together, we're proving that Black resistance never died. It just went underground for a while. And now, it's time to bring it back to the surface. Subscribe if you're in. Comment if you're ready. Share if you understand. This is bigger than YouTube. This is legacy. This is truth. This is justice. Let's build it together. Bow your heads with me. Father God, we come before you today, with hearts full of gratitude and righteous anger. We thank you for preserving the bridge generation, for keeping them strong through the war on drugs, through mass incarceration, through media erasure, through decades of being invisible to everyone but you. You saw them. You sustained them. You kept them fighting. We thank you for the mothers who buried their children and turned their grief into movements. For Kadiatou Diallo, who crossed an ocean to fight for her son. For Valerie Bell, who wore her pain like armor and marched every day. For Baez, who fought for 6 years and won. For Constance Malcolm, who kept the network alive. For Kadiatou Diallo, who stood on that stage in Jena and wept and demanded justice. For Angela Leisure, who said, "My baby died for a seatbelt," and made the world listen. For every mother whose name we don't know, but whose sacrifice we honor. We thank you for the fathers who went to prison and came home to organize. For the young activists who marched every week for years, with no cameras, no glory, no recognition, but never gave up. For the church members who chartered buses to Louisiana because 6 teenagers needed them. For the workers who struck when nobody was watching. For the organizers who built networks in the shadows. For everyone who kept fighting when it felt like nobody cared. You cared, Lord. You saw. You remembered. Lord, we pray for justice. Not symbolic justice, not apologies, not empty promises. We pray for accountability. We pray that police departments would be held to account, that prosecutors would do their jobs, that systems of oppression would crumble. We pray that the killings would stop, that the caging would end, that Black people could breathe free in America. We pray for the day when mothers stop burying children killed by those sworn to protect. We pray for that day, Lord. And we pray we see it in our lifetime. We pray for the next generation, that they would learn this history, that they would know where Black Lives Matter came from, that they would honor the bridge that carried them from the 60s to today. We pray they would seek out their elders and ask them to tell their stories. We pray they would listen. We pray they would learn. We pray they would carry the torch forward with wisdom gained from those who came before. We pray for every person watching who marched and felt forgotten. Let them know today, right now, in this moment, God sees you. History will remember you. Your sacrifice mattered. Your work built the foundation for everything happening now. You are not forgotten. You are honored. You are celebrated. You are loved. Strengthen those who still fight, the ones who are tired, the ones who are weary, the ones who wonder if it's worth it. Give them fresh fire, fresh vision, fresh hope. Heal those who carry trauma from decades of struggle. Heal the mothers who still cry for children who died 20 years ago. Heal the formerly incarcerated who still carry the scars of cages. Heal the activists who gave everything and watched officers walk free anyway. Touch them, Lord. Restore them. Renew them. Vindicate those who were silenced, the ones whose stories were buried, the ones whose names were erased, the ones who organized in obscurity and died in anonymity. Let their legacy rise up now. Let their work be revealed. Let their names be known. Let their sacrifice be honored. Do it now, Lord, while some are still alive to see it. And give us all the courage to keep going until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. This is not over. The fight continues. But we do not fight alone. We fight with the ancestors, with the bridge generation, with a cloud of witnesses, with each other, and with you, the God who brought us through slavery, through Jim Crow, through the dark decades, You will bring us through this too. We believe it. We claim it. We walk in it. This is bigger than politics. This is spiritual warfare. This is the battle between truth and lies, justice, and oppression, freedom and bondage. And we're on the side of truth. We're on the side of justice. We're on the side of freedom, which means we're on your side, Lord. And if God is for us, who can be against us? In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. You are the bridge. You are the link. You are the foundation. Walk in that truth. Tell your story. Teach your children. Honor those who came before. Inspire those who come after. The struggle is not over. But because of you, the next generation doesn't start from zero. They start from your shoulders. They build on your foundation. They carry your legacy forward. That's victory. That's purpose. That's eternal impact. Remember the names: Amadou Diallo, Sean Bell, Timothy Thomas, Oscar Grant, Ramarley Graham, Patrick Dorismond, Anthony Baez, Abner Louima, and the thousands whose names we don't know, but God knows. Say them, remember them, honor them, tell the stories. The Cincinnati uprising, the Jena 6 march, the mothers who kept fighting, the protests that nobody covered, the victories that nobody celebrated. Tell them, pass them down, make them immortal, demand the justice, reparations, accountability, systemic change, the end of police brutality, the end of mass incarceration, the end of wealth theft, the end of suppression. Demand it. Organize for it. Fight for it. Don't stop until you have it. Build the legacy. For the children coming after you. For the generations not yet born. Build movements that outlast you. Build networks that sustain. Build truth that endures. That's your assignment. That's your calling. That's your ministry. Until next time, stay strong. Stay faithful. Stay free. Walk in power. Walk in purpose. Walk in the truth that you are descendants of warriors, survivors of genocide, heirs to stolen empires, and carriers of an unbreakable spirit. They tried to erase you. They failed. You're still here. Still fighting. Still building. Still rising. And that's all the proof we need that we're going to win. Peace.